So, should we bring in the closer? And
I think it'd be a good time for that.
All right.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 85 of the Free Baseball Podcast, presented by the Athlete Sub. My name is Davis Bird, and I'm joined, as always, by Green Hat aficionado Jake Crumpler.
Big dog.
Big frog.
Seen that meme going around?
Tiger Woods. It's starting to get to the point where they're editing it, and it's just the best.
I just love. It's getting to the point where I am like so aware of like meme culture that when you see a meme, you can sort of see it like birth. Because I saw it for the first time. I saw like the first use of it, and then you just see it start trickling out. And it like first it goes through all the other big Twitter profiles, and then it gets into the niche ones. So like now it's getting into baseball ones. I saw one where it was like starting pitchers to like the fourth string bullpen catcher, like after a bullpen, big dog. I'm just like, yeah. So now it's being edited and soon enough he'll have different faces and stuff, and it'll be a thing. And I'm sure we'll get some really good baseball memes out of that. But I think that's a fun one. I love that things can just happen. It's not even like somebody's creating something. It's just like Tiger Woods was on TV and said big dog, and it had a caption, and there we go. That's a meme.
Meme instantly made meme of the year 2024. Some relatively stiff competition. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for the baseball sphere bastardization of the big dog meme, which is going to be the best. But it's free baseball. Got to talk baseball, not golf. No Tiger Woods, no golf, nothing, bro. It's just baseball.
Yeah, that's better than football. At least they do in swinging.
That's true.
Balls.
That's true. One just happens to be stationary and one does not. A man that happens to make them not stationary is Tyler Mahle, who signed with the Texas Rangers for a 2-year deal worth $22 million dues. It's got $5 million worth of incentives based on innings pitched in 2025. Mahle, I think he's supposed to be starting on the injured list, but I think he should be a pretty solid pickup. What say you on Mr. Mahle?
He was a guy that I really liked back. I think it must have been 2021. Just because I thought he was pretty underrated in terms of his ability to get strikeouts, and it was mostly just concerning what he was doing, like where he was pitching in Cincinnati. Now he's out of there, but yeah, he underwent Tommy John surgery last year, only tossed 25 innings. It was in the middle of the year that he underwent it, so it's likely that he comes back at some point at the end of the year, but I don't think the Rangers will be pushing him too hard. I think this is one of those plays where you do the 1 year and an option, except he's sort of locked into that second year, and then he can come back and be on the team for 2025 and be one of their starters. And I think that works well. He does have a lot of upside. He will be 30 by 2025, but I think he's pretty solid, but definitely has not lived up to the standards that he set back in 2021 when he tossed 180 innings with a 3.75 ERA and 210 strikeouts.
Solid. Yeah, he's always been very decent. It felt like he could go like a step above once you kind of get the change of scenery, and we finally got that with the Twins, and he did fine, and then unfortunately got injured. The trade looks a little rough for the Twins now, considering what they gave up. You remember the return?
What the Twins gave up to the Reds. Give me a sec.
Pretty big ones. Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion Strand.
Oh, I was going to say Encarnacion Strand.
For 9 starts from Tyler Mahle, which looks kind of rough now. But I feel like this is a good move for the Rangers to add to their rotation. He's going to be starting the year on the injured list. I think they're projecting him to come back around the time that Jacob deGrom is expected to come back, which would be right around the All-Star break. I know Ken Rosenthal tweeted something about it. He was like, yeah, Mahle sort of fits this because they could potentially have like this huge line change for the second half where it's like, here's just some guys, and then we can sort of really push because they have deGrom coming back, Mahle, and then there's still a lot of interest supposedly on Clayton Kershaw, who could go there. So free agent, of course, but I don't know. I like this Mahle deal. It seems it's extremely low risk. The AAV's $11 million for a guy like Mahle, who I think is a huge upside play. for them, still relatively young as well. So he's 29. and you're potentially getting him at the peak of his powers. Last season, he looked really, really solid in that little stretch. Posted a 3.16 ERA. FIP was in the 4s, but the xFIP was low. Strikeout numbers were up from the previous year, and he looked pretty good. And then he just got hurt and just wasn't able to pitch anymore. So I feel like the Rangers, got a pretty solid deal here for Molly to add to their rotation. And I'm just a pretty big fan of this move. It feels not like a reclamation, but it feels like, hey, here's a guy that we can afford to pay this. Maybe we get a year and a half pretty solid out of him. Solid. Big fan. Second move I'm not really a huge fan of, however, is going to be Jack Flaherty going to the Detroit Tigers for a 1-year deal worth $14 million. It's got $1 million worth of incentives based on games started, which is about $250,000 at 26, and if you get and 28, he gets to 30, $500,000.
You being biased, Davis?
No, I just don't really think Jack Flaherty's very good.
Do you not remember what he did when he first came up?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, Jake. And
that was 2019. How long ago was that? Oh, I guess it was like 5 years ago now.
4 to 5 years ago. Yeah, he was not too inspiring last year, and we sort of projected him. I think we both had him going to teams. You had him going to the Giants, so I think you were a little higher on him than I am.
Well, I'm high on the Giants being able to help a guy recapture his form.
I am going to the Royals, and that kind of is, pretty telling. I think he landed with a pretty similar team to Tigers. Desperately need to add to the rotation. I don't know. Maybe playing in Comerica can help him some. Like, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of this move. I don't think he's very good. I feel like $14 million. It is just a 1-year deal, so it's not that crazy. I don't know. I just really don't think Jack Flaherty is that good.
Yeah, I don't really know anymore. I mean, he's still 28, so he clearly still has the ability to maybe recapture his form, but we really haven't seen him throw more than 151 innings outside of that 2019 season when he was really good. A 2.75 ERA across 196 innings. He struck out a lot of batters, 231, but that's pretty much been the only year he was really good. 2018, he was solid, but like I said, 151 innings. And that was a long time ago. He was 22 years old. I think the biggest thing is, like, I don't know, his attitude last year was sort of shitty. Just about, I don't know, sort of the way he dealt with the media being like, hey, why are you throwing so slow? Or is something wrong? And he's like, shut the hell up. I'm throwing slow because that's how pitchers pitch. You wouldn't understand because you're a baseball writer and you don't know how to pitch. And it's like, okay, sure. What if like Dallas Braden said it? And he did. Dallas Braden commented on that and said the same shit. Just like, why are you being like that, dude? Really, really weird that you would do that, because obviously velocity is very conducive to success. It's very linear that higher velocity leads to more success. And for a guy that was sometimes throwing in the low 90s when he is a guy who should be sitting in the mid 90s, it was somewhat concerning. And you could see the starts where his success dwindled because he wasn't throwing as hard. And so it's sort of weird to, I don't know, sort of be a jerk about it, especially to like people that are, just doing their jobs. But maybe that's something that the Tigers can help him with. I know the Orioles, when they first got him in there and his first start there was pretty solid, he was throwing a lot harder. I think he was averaging like 96 in the start. But it is, I think it's going to be like a direct correlation to him sort of having a better attitude about like wanting to be a better pitcher. Cause it does seem like guys that have success early on and maybe deal with a bunch of injuries or don't feel like they need to change things to improve can really just see their careers go downhill because they're not set on finding a new way to become a better pitcher again. And that's why I thought going to the Giants would be good for him, because they're a team that's not only great at helping pitchers develop or reach their fullest potential, but they're huge on getting guys a mile per hour or two on their fastball. And that would have been massive for Jack Flaherty. So maybe the ballpark does most of it for the Tigers. They don't have the best defense there, but that ballpark is great. And maybe just like a change of scenery to a team that doesn't really have great hopes going into 2024. Like, I don't know, the Cardinals have been so good for so long. You probably, I don't know, it's going to be definitely a change of scenery going from like an old fashioned organization like the Cardinals to Detroit. But yeah, I don't know. I think the fit's fine for the Tigers. It is a good flyer deal for a guy that, like I said, has the potential, but I think it's going to take a mindset change from Flaherty and just some effort on his part to get that velocity back up there, because I think that's really important for him to figure things out. Just like to finalize the point here, which year do you think he had the highest average fastball velocity?
Which year
of his career?
Year 3. So let's go 2021.
That was 2019, the year he had the best year of his career, 94.5 miles per hour. Which year do you think he had the lowest of his career?
Last year.
That is correct. 93.2 miles per hour. So it's just like, it's so clear. Like, oh, you were the best when you were throwing the hardest. Wow, that makes sense. You were the worst when you were throwing the slowest. That also makes sense, but seems to be weird that you would try to like validate why you're doing that when it's like, clearly either something's wrong or you're just not trying as hard, or the Cardinals are just being dumb and telling you like, hey, hold back. Like, you're no Miles Mikolas, bro. You got to blow guys away and then wipe them out with your slider. But yeah, I think it's going to really take some good coaching from the Tigers to really get him back on track.
Yeah, the only thing that I really like at all about this is I do like the pitching coach for the Tigers, Chris Fetter. I feel like they've done a decent job with some of the older guys that have come in and been decent. Like Eduardo Rodriguez has sort of not been an ace, but they've gotten more out of than I think a lot of people expected with Erod. Sure. Same thing with Lorenzen last year. I mean, Lorenzen was the worst all-star of all time, one of them at least, but still, I mean, like, he had a pretty solid second half with the Phillies too.
Stop roasting him. It's not his fault. He was the best player on his team.
That's true. Sorry, bud. But I don't know. I think that it's fine because of that. It's just I am not strong on Jack Flaherty. I just don't think he really has it. I feel like if your velocity is kind of dying when you're 28, I don't know where you go from here. I do think a fit, like, it would have been a better fit with a Giants or with a team that really, really maximizes guys like that. And I think but they also gave him $14 million, which I think is a massive overpay. I think we both had him somewhere around like 11 or 12 a year. We both had him 12 and a half a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's close, especially because it's a 1-year deal and we were both putting him over 2 years. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It seems fine, especially because they probably had to pay him a little extra because he was just true. Detroit, really?
That's true. Yeah, fair enough. Just an excruciatingly mid move is what it feels like. A one that is not mid, much to my chagrin and Jake's, is the Rays making a trade with the Los Angeles Dodgers, sending Tyler Glasnow, Manuel Margot, and some cash considerations, everyone's favorite baseball player, to the Dodgers in exchange for pitcher Ryan Pepio and I think he's an outfielder, Johnny DeLuca. The Dodgers did then extend Tyler Glasnow in a deal worth 4 years, $136.5 million with an option in 2028. That is $21.56 million. If it's declined, it turns into a $30 million club option. So pretty much 5-year extension here for Tyler Glasnow. How are you feeling both on the Dodgers side? Obviously, I kind of hate this on the Dodgers side because I don't want them to be good. But also from the Rays side here, what are you thinking?
Yeah, from the Dodgers side, it's a smart move. It does seem weird to pay him that much money. I know he's got tons of upside when he does pitch. He is pretty solid. His ERAs are never that good, but I think, like, I don't know. It's like, it's weird because he's like leaving the Rays. So it's like, it's not like he's going to get better leaving the Rays. It's really just all going to be up to health. I mean, he's a big strikeout guy. He's a dominant pitcher when he's on, but yeah, I mean, they're going to be paying him like $30 million a year. The extension includes like the arbitration total that he's already guaranteed for 2024, which I think is like super high. I think it's like over 30 million, or maybe it's close to there. But yeah, I mean, they do seem to be paying him a lot for a guy that really doesn't have a track. Like, I think the most innings he's pitched in a season was 120 last year, and that's very, very low. And throughout his career, 3.89 ERA, he's solid, and he's a huge strikeout guy, like I said. But there does seem to be a play towards potential. And maybe they had to give him that money to guarantee him to stick around. But this does seem like a move for a team that has a bunch of young pitchers and guys that you can't really rely on, either like guys coming back from injury or a bunch of injured guys already, and the possibility of bringing back Kershaw, who's already set to miss a lot of the year, to have a guy that could also get injured and likely only pitches at the most 150 innings if he's healthy. It does seem sort of scary, especially now, because it's not like they can just be like, oh, we're going to run you to the ground because you're going to be a free agent. Now they have to sort of take care of him. So it does seem like they're giving up a lot of money for that. That is fine with me for sure. And it sort of locks them into a lot of money for next year. So it keeps them from, going too crazy on the free agent market. But Margot works pretty well in that team. His defense has gone down a lot. He's not really a lefty masher, but he should be solid enough in that outfield. It's not really a strong outfield contingent, so he should platoon pretty well.
Likely platoons with Jason Hayward is what I feel.
Yeah, but the Rays side I think is really interesting because anybody they get it is interesting. Mm-hmm. For me, I'll start with DeLuca because I think he's going to be like the next Kevin Kiermaier, where he's like not that great of a hitter, but he's an incredible defender in center field. It's basically what he was last year for the Dodgers. There's lots of highlights of him going out there and making some incredible plays in the outfield. And while he has been a guy that doesn't strike out a lot, that's sort of what Kevin Kiermaier does, where he shows a little bit of power, but not really a lot. I think 2022, he had 25 home runs and 17 steals across high A and double A. And then 2023, 17 home runs and 12 steals. So he seems like in the majors, probably like a 15-10 guy with great defense in center field. And that seems pretty solid. And Pepio is really the big get though, because this is a guy really solid 3-pitch mix, throws mid-90s, got an incredible changeup and a slider. And I think the Rays could probably turn him into somebody really legit, especially he'll be 26 next year. And he's shown some incredible success in the minors, mostly in 2022. But he also pitched well in the majors, and last year across 42 innings, 2.14 ERA. So I don't know. It seemed like when this first went through, did you feel like it was too little just because like Glasnow and Margot sort of seems like a pretty big get?
In a way, but given the extension, that's sort of what pushed it over the top for me. And I felt this from the start, and it's honestly comes down to Cubs bias as well, but it had me thinking about it because the possibility of Ohtani, it felt for me like whatever big team got Ohtani also would be the one to get Glasnow because the fit was so good as a 1-year move. Because Ohtani's not going to pitch this year. Obviously, we've already established that. It felt like Glasnow would be the perfect bridge starter until you can get Ohtani next year. And I was like, okay, maybe Pepio and DeLuca for Manny Margot and a year of Glasnow. Like that feels fair. Given the extension, it feels like okay. I'm not really sure about this. I do really like Ryan Pepio. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I trust the Rays to maximize young arms like that. You can look at his page on Pitcher List and just sort of just gawk at all the red. Really good.
He's definitely legit.
He's very good. 30.6 called strikes plus whiff percentage just in general. I think he has like an absolutely disgusting. I think he's a slider guy. Just change up.
He's got a slider, but he's mostly a changeup. Yeah.
Change up slider guy.
Changeup's legit.
Yeah, he's really solid. I trust the Rays to really maximize guys like that. DeLuca, I like too. I sort of am like you. It's like where it initially looked more like a defensive guy. I do think he probably ends up not necessarily platooning. I feel like he might actually somehow manage to pull away and get an everyday job with the Rays just because he's an excellent defender. If you look anything about his hitter profile, the dude's a huge pull side hitter. And if he can actually get into some of his power, because he actually, if he was like in the minors, I think he ended up hitting more home runs and stealing more bases in 25 less games than he did in the previous year. So I think if he can really, really get into the power to the pull side in Tropicana, I think he could be great.
Great point.
I really like him.
They've been really good at doing that. I mean, we saw that with Isak Paredes last year.
Exactly.
exactly, becoming just a huge pull guy and going off for 30 plus home runs. And like, you don't even have to hit the ball that hard to do that,
They
especially
don't.
with the way that ballpark is
It's like
situated.
it's like left, or it's like right field in Fenway, where it's just like
Sure.
the wall's super short. It's kind of a short porch. I like the hitter profile for DeLuca a lot, and I really like Pepio, and I really love the organizational fit for Pepio. And it's like same thing for DeLuca. Really like he reminds me a lot of Isaac Paredes, but they have a lot of guys that just feel sort of similar to DeLuca, like Josh Lowe as well. Power speed guy, decent fielders. DeLuca, in his case, an excellent fielder. So I like this a lot. It just feels like maybe not enough for what they get for Glasnow, but Glasnow, like I said, on the Dodgers side again, 120 innings pitched is his absolute max that he's had for his whole career. But the Dodgers, if anything, for me, it feels like the team that's got a lot of young pitching, like starter wise, that can sort of take some of the brunt off of him, where it's like, all right, go throw like 5 max, and then we'll just kind of go from there. And they can sort of kind of maintain it with him. So I don't know.
They seem like they need like a guy they can trust to go out there every day. Cause like at this point, do they have a guy like that? It's like their rotation right now is the Glasnow, Buehler, Bobby Miller, Ryan Yarbrough, Emmett Sheehan. Yarbrough and Sheehan, I mean, Sheehan's fine. Like he's young, so like he's got potential, but like Yarbrough as your number 4 is bad. Bobby Miller, I think is the next like big ace in baseball. So like maybe that is your guy. And Walker Buehler, you know, a full 2 years removed from Tommy John surgery. Maybe he's able to get right back on track this year, but it seems like he should be somewhat limited innings wise. And then Glasnow at the top, it's like, you don't have a guy that's going out there and is going to give you 6 innings every single time. I think there's some concern about that. I think there's a possibility that this trade right now looks like the Dodgers might have won it, especially getting Glasnow to sign an extension. But by like maybe mid-season next year, Glasnow's injured. Manuel Margot's like on the short side of a platoon. Johnny DeLuca is, you know, fine. And then Ryan Pepio is like one of the best starters on the Rays. And then we're just like, oh man, the Rays did it again. They always win these trades. I don't know. I could definitely see that happening. I think we might be talking DeLuca up a bit too much. I forgot how crowded their outfield was because they do have Randy in left, Lowe in right, and Jose Siri in center. And Siri was quietly incredible last year. And then that doesn't even count like Harold Ramirez, who could play in the corner outfield as well on the bench. So I think they would have to trade Randy, which I know that they're looking to do, but maybe they won't now that they traded Glasnow and Margot. Now they're just like, hey, we're set. DeLuca can. Honestly, DeLuca just like directly replaces Margot, and Ryan Pepio likely throws more innings than Glasnow, and then they won. I think they have him for more years. It's cheaper too.
That would also be a very Rays move. The thing is, like, I'm fingers crossed the Dodgers don't get Yamamoto, because their rotation currently is set up to be like the favorite for Yamamoto, and that really sucks. Yes. But I think that the points you raised as well, where it's like, I looked at it mainly from a quality perspective. I didn't look at it from like an innings perspective, where it's like Glasnow doesn't throw a lot. You have Buehler coming back like from injury. Otani's going to have to join next year. He's not going to throw. And then you're going to rely on your 4 and 5 to be Emmett Sheehan, who's young, but really unproven. He was really up and down last year. And Ryan Yarbrough, who is sort of proven, but he's proven to be really mid. Like, I don't know what you really do there, because even if they get Kershaw back, is Kershaw a guy at this point in his career? And I know Kershaw's not extremely old, but like, is Kershaw a guy you can hang your hat on now and be like, hey, Kersh, go throw 6 innings every start? No, I really don't think so.
He hasn't been that for like a decade.
Yeah, he hasn't. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of question marks about this. I hadn't even considered some of those points.
One last point. Tyler Glasnow. I saw a leaderboard of like worst postseason ERAs for the last like 5 years. God, and it was like Clayton Kershaw and Tyler Glasnow. And I was like, let's go.
Yeah, I saw that too, and that was crazy. I'm like, I don't know how someone could be worse than playoff Kershaw.
Yep, and they found it, and they were just like, we want that. We want all of that.
The heir
for all the years.
The heir to the throne. Yeah, moving on. No more Dodgers talk for now. We can talk about some Royals talk because they actually signed some guys, and they started with Hunter Renfroe, who they signed to a 2-year deal worth $13 million. It's got $500,000 worth of incentives baked into both seasons, and he has an opt-out after 2024. So it's a 1+1, which really sucks because I know that was for the next one that we'll talk about. But you'll see a theme with these as well. Yeah, Hunter Renfroe, very quietly, really solid baseball player. Royals looking to get better in a division that looks still, again, like the worst in baseball. So extremely winnable for them after they get back most of their guys that just kind of died on the injured list last year.
You say really solid. I feel like he's mid and not in like a bad way.
I feel like by Royal standards, he's like the GOAT because their players are mostly terrible. So any guy that can play baseball above a replacement level is a major upgrade for the Royals.
Yeah, a very fair point. This is a guy that for his career has been worth 9.9 WAR, and he topped out at 2.5. That's slightly above replacement level. Or like league average is around like 2 WAR. So he is at his best, slightly above a league average player. I don't know. At this point, we sort of know what Renfroe is, and he sort of does the same thing every year. He's going to hit for pretty solid power, 20 to 30 home runs, play like slightly below average defense, but make up for it with his arm, and then sort of just like be there all the time. And yeah, that's fine. I think this fits for the Royals. It makes sense for the Royals because at this point, like you said, any guy that just is like average at baseball is going to be an upgrade. So, he's got to figure things out after a down year at the plate last year, 92 WRC plus. He's been 106 for his career, which I think is telling of what he is. I feel like he's just like a average player, and that's fine. It fits a team like this where it's like an average player being there all year long is going to up your win total, likely only by a couple of games, but that'll do it. And if you can combine it with a couple other moves, things can work out. I don't know if that's the case here. We'll discuss the next signing very shortly, but the Royals spent $105 million so far this winter. I don't know if you saw Passan's post about like the top spenders this winter. It was like the Dodgers, like 12 times more than everybody, like 708 million. And it's probably higher now after extending Glasnow, but it was like them, then the Giants, the Phillies, and then it was like the Royals at like 4 or 5 with 105 million. I was like, really?
That's crazy.
They're fourth, and it was like 105 million. I was like, that is really a way to spend 105 million. We already talked about Seth Lugo. We already talked about now Hunter Renfroe, and their bullpen signings include Will Smith and Chris Stratton, as well as Nick Anderson. And then they signed one more starter, and it's like, that was $105 million. Damn, that's not too great. And especially it's like those guys were huge upgrades over what they currently have. I don't have too much faith in the Royals. I love seeing teams spend money always, unless it's the Dodgers. But yeah, I don't think these are going to be the moves that push them over the edge at this point. They've got some exciting players, but these solid average veterans, I don't think are going to be the difference makers.
Yeah, there's a player that's later on the rundown that we're going to talk about, but he's basically directly replacing Edward Olivares in the outfield, which depends on how you feel about him because they moved on from him. Do you want to play a little game before we move on to the next player of the Royals? The Royals will now be Hunter Renfroe's 7th team in the last 6 years. Can you name all the teams he's been on, just off the top of your head?
I just had his page open, but I went out of it as soon as you started asking. Padres, Red Sox, Brewers.
Yep.
Angels.
Yep.
Reds.
Yep. One more.
How many is that? One more?
5. That's 5. Royals will not count that one, so you got one more. Kind of a weird one.
I got no idea.
Rays.
Oh yes, I had that early on, and I saved it for later.
Yep, 7 teams in 6 years for Hunter Renfroe, journeyman.
So you're good.
He feels like an extremely Royals player, and that's very on brand. Just like this next guy is Michael Wacha, which is really annoying because we both had the right amount of years, and then they divulged that is a 1-year deal for $16 million, and then an additional year in 2025 that is a $16 million player option. So we lost on 2 points for the both of us. It's got
what is the difference between an opt out after the first year of a 2-year deal and a player option for the second year?
I don't know, but I really hate it. It feels like there is none. It feels like there is absolutely none whatsoever. $500,000 worth of incentives in both seasons. But yeah, the Royals signed Michael Wacha. Already signed the aforementioned by you, Seth Lugo. Now they get Michael Wacha, 2 guys that throw baseballs.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's sort of hard to pin down what Michael Wacha is. Usually when guys pitch for 11 years, you can sort of do the cliche thing that I find myself doing a lot. Like, we know who this guy is at this point. I feel like we don't. I don't know if he's good or not. I don't know if he's like a guy that consistently outpitches his peripherals, or if he's a guy that just has gotten lucky recently after a few years of being really bad. It's really hard to tell. He's going to be 32. It's just like the weird thing is, it's like he is what my boss at Pitcher List calls a Toby, a guy that doesn't strike out a lot of guys and sort of just is an innings eater, but he's not an innings eater. It's like he hasn't thrown more than 134 was his high since 2017 when he pitched 165. The highest he's pitched is 181. That was 2015. So really it's like, okay, yeah, you can project him for 120 to 140 innings. 140 is likely out of the question since he's done that twice ever in 11 years. So it's like, okay, 130 innings and likely a 4 ERA. It's just so mid. It's just it's the pitcher version of Hunter Renfroe.
Funnily enough, he's also been on 6 teams in 6 years. Can you name?
Well, I got it up already.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't have been able to name it. I wouldn't have gotten the Mets.
Immaculate Grid legends, Hunter Renfroe and Michael Wacha. But Michael Wacha had one of the best seasons of his career last year. Changeup was completely disgusting. So I mean, I feel like he is a weird one to read, and I think that's a really good call for Michael Wacha. Nobody knows what he is, and I feel like this is a really strange one for him. Toby definitely does fit him extremely well. But I don't know. They feel like extremely Royals signings. They just do.
Yeah, like they'll help the team, but not enough.
Yeah, I think that's extremely fair. I feel like the plan here, and a lot of what I've seen them compared to, which sort of fits in a weird sort of way, is like, can they get one of these guys to sort of be like the big veteran competitor that can just push and give them innings and get them over the line, almost like a Jeremy Guthrie a couple years ago, and just be a guy that can get them to win the division.
Years ago, bro.
He pitched for them in the 2010s a couple years ago.
A couple years ago, bro. It was still the 2020s a couple years ago. He pitched for the Royals in 13, 14, 15. A couple years ago. That was nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was when they were good, Jake. That was the last time they were good. This division is the most winnable in baseball. And if Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo can just not be ass, I feel like the Royals can probably win the division with 85 wins. Be like, because the division's just so bad.
But no, not them. The division is so bad, but so are they.
Probably not them. But we also, I mean, the Royals suck. We know. But we really didn't get to see the Royals at the peak of their powers last year, but for like 20 games because Vinny Pasquantino got hurt. Bobby Witt Jr. went stupid last year. Bobby Witt Jr. was incredible last year, and they surrounded him with a bunch of bums. And potentially this year they're surrounding him with a bunch of more bums, but at least they're trying. And I think this overall is good for baseball because it's the Royals that are spending the money, because the Royals don't ever spend the money to try to contend at all. They know this division's winnable. They know they have some of these guys that, like, look, our time is limited to sort of convince Bobby Witt Jr. now, because that sort of feels like what this is, that, hey, we're not going to be complete garbage, or at least going to try to not be complete garbage. Here's some guys that play baseball at a replacement level or better. like Hunter Renfroe and Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo, Chris Stratton, Will Smith, and Nick Anderson, and potentially adding a little bit more because they still kind of need a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Still remains.
They won't though. They spent so much money
won't.
already.
Still remains to be seen. They could. Who knows?
They could. Yes, every team could, but they won't.
Yeah, they could. I don't know. I just think it's a good move in general for baseball. I'm not crazy about Michael Wacha, but genuinely, who else is in their rotation? Name guys not named Brady Singer and Chris Bubich that throw for them.
Cole Reagans.
Well, Cole Reagans is nuts. Like the rest of them, they didn't develop him. They traded for him. He doesn't count. Like
that's the point. Yeah,
they haven't been able to do. They haven't been able to develop pitching forever. Nope. So like they have to kind of do this. So it's a move born of necessity is what it feels like. But that's enough. That's enough Royals talk. We can talk about other teams that are trying to do things that we don't really understand, which just so happens to be Padres trading Matt Carpenter, Ray Kerr, and cash considerations, the boy, to the Braves in exchange for Drew Campbell. In exchange for Drew Campbell, the Braves then released Matt Carpenter after going a week trying to find a trade partner and coming up short. So this is a move basically just for Ray Kerr, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's sort of weird what the Braves are just like, we want to pay money to guys that are not on our team. No, it's like, I don't know. They just keep like getting random dudes like Ray Kerr and stuff, but it's like, we'll take on $5 million for this guy, $10 million for that guy. And they just like keep racking up the money. And then they're just like, oh, but we don't want him on our team, but we'll pay the money. We love paying people money. We got all this extra money from the Braves Foundation for all the extensions we've signed. But they didn't give up much. Drew Campbell's not really anything. It's really just money. But Ray Kerr's somewhat interesting. He had a 3.24 xFIP last year in 27 innings with a 30% strikeout rate. Quietly could actually be a decent relief arm. He'll be 29 next year, so it's not like he's going to be a guy that's going to be dominating for them for many years to come. But he's shown strikeout stuff in the minors. He showed it last year in the majors. So I think that's fine. It's a depth guy in the bullpen for taking on a few extra $1 million for Matt Carpenter. But yeah, not much analysis, I think, for this one.
Yeah, they basically just wanted Ray Kerr because he's a lefty that throws hard and strikes guys out. He did very nicely last year. Kind of destroyed lefties. I mean, he's a hard-throwing lefty, pretty solid slider, but that's kind of it. He's a very generic, hard-throwing lefty reliever. I think he held lefties to like a mid-5s OPS last year. Solid. Other than that, nothing really to talk about here. This next move, we're going back to the Royals, making a trade with another baseball team that nobody understands, and that is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They traded Edward Olivares to the Pirates in exchange for Davis Nadal.
Cool way to spell Davis, huh?
Yeah, cool guy. Olivares, extremely mid. So what do you feel about this move?
I don't know. I think Olivares actually has a lot of potential. He's sort of just been the guy that the Royals have called up and down like 12 times every single year. So I think that's really stunted his development because he does have a lot of power speed potential. He hits the ball pretty dang hard. At max exit velocity is over 111. It's pretty solid. And he's like fast enough and athletic enough to play in the outfield. He's not a great defender, but he does have the athleticism to do that. I think he could actually be a pretty decent hitter. Maybe he's a guy who's more of a platoon guy as he's been better versus lefties over his career. And I don't know, with the Pirates, it's sort of, they're in a weird situation where it's like they looked like they were going to be the fun team last year and then they never really got there. So maybe that's this year that it happens. But he is going to be more of a backup or a platoon guy in right field with Palacio. So I think he could actually be pretty decent with some playing time, but it really depends on if his glove takes that much away. But I don't know. I don't know anything about Nadal. Have you looked into him?
I really have not. I know he's another outfield prospect.
He is 21. He played in A-ball last year. He struck out 33% of the time and walked 15% of the time and hit 8 home runs with 33 stolen bases. And he's a shortstop.
They had him. I saw the trade and it like called him an outfielder. I'm like, oh, sure, cool, whatever. I feel like this trade is very like very strange. But then you go look at the Royals in general, and even though their team is kind of bad at this point in time, if any position sort of has like a log jam, it's kind of the outfield. I know they got Nelson Velasquez last year in a trade with the Cubs. They also have like a bunch of their top prospects that are hitters are outfielders.
Hunter Renfroe now too.
Yeah, they have Hunter Renfroe, but I know they had Tyler Gentry, who I think was in their top 5 or top 10 last year. He's up. Darren
They
Blanco.
moved Melendez to the outfield.
Yeah,
Kyle Isbell.
They still have Drew Waters, and then they also drafted Gavin Cross, who's kind of been going up already. He's in Double-A. Should start, probably will end the season in Triple-A, right on, like, knocking on the door.
Did you mention Drew Waters?
Yeah, well, very vaguely. Drew Waters is a guy that exists and plays baseball for them.
He does play baseball.
So I don't know. If anything, like, position sort of has a logjam for them, it would be the outfield. So I guess the move's all right. He looks like an extremely similar player to Nelson Velasquez, and maybe they just like Velasquez more than Olivares.
I think Velasquez definitely has more potential. I don't know. It's just sort of at this point, it's like you sort of screwed over Olivares so much. Just like give him a chance to play somewhere else.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So it probably will not have too much of an impact, but I think deep fantasy leagues like 15 teams are going to be really excited if Olivares gets play, because there were many times the past few years where it was like, oh my God, he's coming back up. Go grab him on Fab, and then you just go right back down.
Yeah. Another move we can talk about is the Diamondbacks continuing to add in this offseason. I guess you can really call it add because they just got back one of their own, and it's Lourdes Gurriel Jr. They signed him to a 3-year deal worth $42 million. It's got a $14 million club option for 2027 and an opt-out after 2025. This one was a cool one for us because we combined to get this one correct.
That's right. You had the right team. I got the exact right contract. I obviously wasn't predicting any sort of club option or opt out, but yeah, Gurriel's got some options here clearly, but I don't know. It's sort of a boring signing because he doesn't go anywhere, and he's sort of a boring player, not because of his like personality or anything. I think that's what makes him so memorable. He's got a really memorable name. He's got an older brother that also played in the majors and was pretty decent, World Series champion and a racist.
Yeah, not a big fan of his.
But he is very mid. He's like if Hunter Renfroe struck out less and hit for less power. Last year, he hit a career high 24 home runs, but it came with a career low full season WRC plus and yet a career high FWAR, and it was 2.1. So like he's pretty average. I think he's like above average with the bat, but he's just not like a great fielder. He improved a lot last year in the field, and it didn't make a huge difference. So I think he's just a guy that can be there. And they sort of needed a veteran presence in the outfield with a lot of young guys there. And while they do have depth in the outfield, it wasn't like reliable depth, guys that you would want to start opening day with, like Dominic Fletcher. But it's not like they're going to be relying on him super heavily. They can use him at DH. They needed a right-handed hitter anyway. They probably still could use another right-handed hitter. It fits the team super well, and it's not something you really have to stress about because you can just throw him in there and he's going to be a guy that's going to be like average, and that's fine. Especially like it's different with the Royals where it's like you need impact guys that are going to make a huge difference. But when it's the Diamondbacks who just made the World Series and have a really exciting young team, adding a guy that can just be there and be solid and trustworthy, I think is way bigger because you're adding like 2 wins to a team that was at, I don't know, projected for 85 rather than a team projected for 65 adding 2 wins. Like there's a big difference.
Yeah. And this sort of felt like a guy that, and I even said this when we made the predictions, is like Gurriel feels like a good kind of locker room guy for the Diamondbacks who are
he seems
still
like
a young team. Yeah, he does. He definitely seems like the boy. I know. I don't know if you've seen like his Instagram post, but he basically like said, "I really hope this isn't a goodbye post." Blah blah blah, all that stuff. And then he gets to stay. I think the contract is extremely fair. I think we were pretty close on it. I think you had him. I had one more year with a slightly lower AAV. But he ends up getting $14 million a year, which isn't that crazy. And the Diamondbacks continue to add because they got Erod. They traded for Henry Suarez, and now they have Lourdes Gurriel Jr. coming back. They're supposed to be still looking for power hitting DH, according to Ken Rosenthal. So,
Soler.
Yeah. Yeah, Soler in the desert would be something else. But yeah, I like this move. He does seem like the boy. I don't think it's that much money for him, for a guy like this. So pretty solid move. We can talk more about the Pirates because we took our little intermission from Edward Olivares. But now the Pirates have signed Martin Perez, formerly of the Texas Rangers, to a deal worth $8 million over 1 year.
That's World Series champion Martin Perez to you.
The GOAT.
Yeah. He had that incredible year in 2022. Everybody knew that was going to be a fluke, and he proved everybody right last year by coming back down to earth, going back down. Like his career ERA right now is 4.44. Last year 4.45 ERA. Like I think we know what he is, and he does not strike out a lot of guys. He's really good at getting weak contact, pretty solid at ground balls, but he's just an arm that's going to go out there and like throw some innings and just like, I don't know, be pretty replacement level, which is sometimes fine. For a team like this, where you got a bunch of random dudes, this rotation is not good right now. Mitch Keller looked like he was going to be an ace last year in the first half and then really fell back down to earth, finishing with a 4.21 ERA. He's their ace. Their number 2 is Martin Perez. Their number 3 is Marco Gonzalez, who was, sort of just, I don't know, thrown away by the Mariners and the Braves. And then after that, it's a couple young guys, Luis Ortiz and Bailey Falter. And that is not an exciting rotation. They lost Johan Oviedo and JT Brubaker to Tommy John surgery. And then it's like, okay, yeah, they need like Quinn Priester and Paul Skeens can come up at some point, and those are going to be sort of the saving graces for this rotation. But as it currently stands, this might be the worst rotation in baseball, and this is a league in which the A's play.
Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. So far, we're going to talk about this next signing, and I still think that one even more so is not the most inspired signing, but it's like if you look at the Pirates offseason so far, they have added Edward Olivares, they've added Rowdy Tellez, Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez. Like, what is this team? You had a team that looked like really exciting to start the year, and it's like, here's a bunch of guys that are bums.
I mean, they're sort of doing the Royals way, but they're doing it cheaper, which is just like
embarrassing.
It's smarter from a baseball perspective because you're very likely to get similar production from those guys. Mm-hmm. But like, this is more embarrassing because it's like, oh, on paper, these guys look way worse.
Hey, have you seen their most recent rumor to who they're getting linked with signing next?
No.
Who's the most middle infielder you can think of?
Oh, I'm never really good at coming up with guys on the spot like this. Middle, shortstop or second base?
Second base.
Oh, a mid second baseman.
He was on a playoff team last year. Actually, kind of a solid fantasy player.
What always happens with this is I just get like Dan Uggla in my head, and then I can't think of anybody else.
He's the reverse Dan Uggla because he can't hit a home run. It's Adam Frazier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I like Adam Frazier, but
I like it for fantasy. I don't really like it for anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. The Pirates are a weird team, but they also signed a guy that will actually get people to come to see their weird baseball team. That's Andrew McCutchen. They re-signed him to a 1-year deal worth $5 million. And then play the foolish Bailey tweet first.
The furries, yeah.
Anthrocon is going to be in Pittsburgh, and what is that?
They'll be playing there.
Yeah, for real. They're going to be playing.
Pirates chairman Bob nutting on Andrew McCutchen. It's so funny. I can't believe they wrote that. And then I thought I was like unique of like being like, whoa, why does that sound so crazy? And then all of the comments were like, why is Bob doing that to McCutchen? So funny. I mean, this is a second year reunion that, is sort of meant to be. McCutchen, a Pirate during the heyday of his career, left town for just a little bit to go to San Francisco and New York and Philadelphia and Milwaukee, back in Pittsburgh last year, and really had a renaissance. 115 WRC plus was his best since 2019, which was just his second year out of Pittsburgh. But yeah, going into his age 37 season, a guy that's dealt with injuries the past few years, he's not going to be a difference maker, but I think for the fans and for, the clubhouse, he makes a huge difference just in those regards. So like, he's going to be raking in money for the owner, Bob Nutting. because fans will be showing up, and then also like he'll make that clubhouse feel a lot better, I'm sure, especially just given his veteran presence, and not just that, but also he's a chill dude. And yeah, like I said, he was not bad last year when he was playing. There was a stretch where he went like 2 months without hitting a home run, but when he is playing pretty well, he's a very good hitter.
Yeah, I think this is a fun one just for Pirates fans in general. They love
Yeah.
McCutchen. It's hard not to love McCutchen in general. I really like him. He's one of the best Pirates of all time. You have to say he's top 10 for them in WAR, top 10 for them in home runs. I think he's top 10 in like doubles or something else too. I think Bob Nightingale said like, okay, he re-signed 1 more year, that McCutchen's plan is to play like 1 or 2 more years and then retire as a Pirate. So hopefully they can just kind of get that done, and he'll probably just sign a 1-year deal every year and kind of eventually fade into the background. But yeah, this is a cool move just from a fan perspective. We can move on to the next one, which is going to be the fan perspective of my co-host. And that is going to be because his San Francisco Giants signed catcher Tom Murphy to a 2-year deal worth $8 million. Got a club option in 2026 with a $250,000 buyout. Tom Murphy.
How much it is.
It's $250,000. That's how much you wrote. So that's what I'm saying.
No, that's how much the buyout is. I don't know how much the option is.
$5. $52.
You're just like, do I want to play next year?
Nah.
Well, I do. I want $250K. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be the backup catcher. Patrick Bailey's going to be the catcher of the future. Tom Murphy, actually pretty awesome offensive catcher, but he does not stay healthy. He's a below average defender. I feel like he's going to be there. He's going to like be pretty great offensively, and he's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career, topping out at 97 games. Probably will play in like 50 games, get injured, and then we'll see Joey Votto or Blake Sable backing up. But yeah, I mean, it should be cool. This is not a difference maker in any sense of the word.
Does this sort of look like Joey Bart is 100% going to get traded because they have Blake Sable?
No, I think they still have options on why did I just forget his name? I think they still have options on Bart, and so I think they could still work around it. Just leave him in the minors to start the year, but I feel like he gets 1 more shot before they give up on him. I mean, yeah, he's not really been there, but I think you got to give him 1 more shot to prove himself in the minors, or at least try to refigure things out in the minors. But yeah, this is definitely like the fact that it's 2 years sort of suggests that, you know, if Bart doesn't figure things out in the minors, they'll probably trade him.
Yeah, fair. That's just the biggest question mark I had about this trade, because I saw that and I'm like, Tom Murphy, and then I had to think about it more. I'm like, Patrick Bailey, obviously, like he's not gonna start with Patrick Bailey. It's like, but what are they gonna do with Joey Bart at all? Like, I think there's a chance he could be moved just because I feel like
they're just not
gonna
get anything for him.
That's true, but maybe someone
it's like you might as well hold on to him and get nothing for him next year.
Maybe. There's also some teams that really could use a catcher that might honestly look at the catcher market right now in free agency and be like, wow, there's nobody left. Like the Marlins. The Marlins have like nobody. I don't actually know if they have a catcher on their roster right now.
Yeah.
Because I think Jacob Stallings is a free agent. So I think there's like a chance for to be like, okay. Yeah, they just got Christian Bethancourt, but then their other catcher is Nick Fortes. I've never heard of that guy in my entire life. So
he's pretty decent, but
never heard of him. So
it's fine. Don't know ball. It's fine.
Yeah, perennial ball non-knower. We talked about catchers still. Eric Hayes joining the. It's got an E on the end of it. Hayes. Signed for the Brewers, a 1-year deal worth some amount of money. Definitely also another backup catcher, because he is definitely not playing over William Contreras.
One of the deals of the offseason for sure.
One of the deals. Do we really need to continue more with this guy? Is
no.
82 career WRC plus guy. I'm good.
No.
Good. We're not doing it. No Brewers talk ever until right now when they trade Adrian Hauser and Tyrone Taylor to the Mets in exchange for Coleman Crow, which feels 100% like one of the made up guys in MLB show that you drafted. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Because I had I think in one of the franchises that I simmed like just like the most I've ever done, my like first round pick was JJ Crow. So really get a lot of vibes there. Coleman Crow is a starter. Yep,
Yeah,
he's a starter. He's going to be 23. He was good last year in 24 innings, and that's Coleman Crow for you. He doesn't seem that crazy, but he is young, and that's weird though that the Brewers would give up so much for a guy like that. Because I mean the Brewers likely aren't going to be competitive next year after, already saying they might trade Corbin Burns and non-tendering Brandon Woodruff and I don't know, letting a lot of guys go. But like Tyrone Taylor is a guy who's been a very good like short side platoon guy, and who can play center field. So I like that's pretty valuable. He won't be a free agent until 2027. So that's 3 more years that the Mets could have him. And I think he could be a great role player. And Adrian Hauser, mostly known for throwing up on the mound multiple times. He's very, very mid, and that's fine. It does seem weird though, that they're just like, yeah, we'll give you one guy. I'm going to let you talk about this. I have to pee really bad, and I've never done this mid episode. We've done 85 episodes without me getting up and going pee in middle episode, but I'm going to do that. I can still hear you.
No mid-cod. No.
So I can hear what you're saying. Don't say anything mean about me.
So I think there's some interesting things about Coleman Crow, because I don't think there are many interesting things at all about Adrian Hauser nor Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor is kind of a career like fourth outfielder for the Brewers, and Adrian Hauser is Adrian Hauser. If you've watched any Brewers games, you know exactly what he is. But Coleman Crow here, I think, has some interesting things about him, but he also has some concerns that I want to talk about a little bit as well while I wait for Jake to return from Pisstown. Coleman Crow, his big deal is his secondary offerings, because he throws like a mid to low 90s fastball. I think he sits kind of like right around 93 to 94, but his curveball actually has like insane spin rate. So it actually has insane spin rate, and it had the highest horizontal sweep of any curve in baseball actually last year. And this comes from, I can't remember where this article came from. I'm looking at it right now. It has a lot of glove side run as well. He also, I think he fits the Brewers mold of kind of a weird starter, because if you've seen any of the highlights of him throw, and if you have not, you should go look them up, specifically when he was with Rocket City, with the Angels. I think he was with them before, but he has sort of like it's not quite a 3/4 release slot, but it's a lower than normal release slot. And the Brewers just kind of, eat it up with those guys. They really, really like guys that throw from weird slots, crazy secondary offerings, and I would trust the Brewers pitching development here. My only concerns with him are that he's 22. He's only pitched like a little bit in the higher levels of the minors, and he's already had Tommy John, and he doesn't throw hard already. So I think he could end up being a very solid starter for what they gave up, but I also think he's got a lot of reliever downside, which sort of kind of turns me off of this, because they did give up control on Tyrone Taylor, and then they gave up Adrian Hauser, who I think is a pretty solid starter for this guy. And he's not even close to the top 10 for the Brewers. I think he's like 25 or 26.
Great analysis. I commend you for handling the podcast with an empty seat next to you.
Sure did.
Yeah, we can move on to the last signing before we get to the main event, an hour into the show.
We did it. The Padres signed Yuki Matsui in a deal. It's 4 years, $21 million.
Yes, that is reported. I have not seen it confirmed anywhere, but I really like this signing, because Matsui's going to be 28. So you'll get him for pretty solid years of his career where he's not too old. And this is a guy who's been one of the best closers in Japan for a long time, like ever since like 2015, when he was 19 years old. He had 33 saves as a 19-year-old. That's so sick. But it's not like that was like the peak of his career and then he dwindled down. The past 3 years, he's been incredible as well. 2021, 0.63 ERA, 24 saves. 2022, 1.92 ERA, 32 saves. 2023, 1.57 ERA, 39 saves, a career high. This guy's legit. The problem is he is a lefty, not a problem. They could definitely use a lefty then. They are replacing Josh Hader with Matsui. The problem is the dude is 5'8". He throws 94 miles per hour around. It's more, I think, lower 90s than mid 90s, which is fine. But 5'8", mid 90s seems like a little sketch. I've seen videos of his curveball. His curveball is definitely legit. It comes from like a very high release point for a guy who's 5'8". But it does seem like maybe there could be durability issues because he's so small, but also like maybe that fastball is not blowing guys away. So being a closer in MLB might come a little hard for him. But okay, well, yeah, that's a good use of words right there. But he does not have a lot of competition in San Diego. It's like it's him and Robert Suarez, and both of them were incredible relievers in MPB. I think I trust Matsui more, but they are very, very different pitchers. Robert Suarez is a big fastball guy from the right side. Matsui's a big curveball guy from the left side. I would love to see the Padres sort of test things out with Matsui, but I think it's going to come down to how he looks in spring training, and maybe it comes down to how much money they owe both of these guys. I think they owe Suarez more because they re-upped with him after his first season in San Diego. But this should be an interesting closer battle to watch. What's likely to happen is that they platoon and both of them close.
You talk about his curveball, Jake. The pitch with the insane vertical drop. Jake, he's a forkball guy. His curveball is probably his fourth best pitch. Just for an example, Jake, batters in general last year against just his forkball hit 118. What do you think righties hit against this short king that dominates Japanese baseball? What do you think righties hit against it?
I would expect the forkball as a changeup derivative to be better against opposite-handed batters. And if you said 116 against both, I would assume that it is below 100 for righties, and I'm going to say 95.
0.057. He's disgusting. He had a 1.57 yard.
What the?
Yeah, he's disgusting, man. He still throws hard enough. And the slot he throws from, if you've watched him throw too, because I think that's a big part of the fit here. Before I put in a funny little bit of trivia for him, he throws the typical kind of Japanese like stutter step sort of wind up, but his slot is like a high 3/4. So he's 5'8", but he throws from a high slot. It's like kind of Chad Qualls-esque, if you remember him.
Who said that? Did you pull that out of your head?
I said that.
That's crazy, bro. You are so weird.
I know ball, bro. He throws from a high slot, and that thing just falls off a table. It's disgusting. His slider is really good. His fastball, he's got very good command on it. He doesn't throw hard. Like 94, I don't know. We'll see. I don't really think he's going to be blowing anyone away in there, but he throws hard. And the break on that on that forkball is just disgusting. I really like this. I was kind of bummed because I was really hoping that the Cubs would come in for him and get him. But yeah, he's live, bro. He's also former teammate of Padres legend Jabari Blash with the Rakuten Golden Eagles.
Yeah, I feel like he's gone very under the radar because of all of the like very God, I can't remember the word. I can't think of the word. The very big free agent signings and extensions for East Asian baseball players. So like with Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto and even Imanaga and Jung-Hoo Lee, there's all this attention being played to East Asian players. And that sort of has allowed Matsui to sneak under the radar, especially like 4 years, 21 million. That's a steal. I mean, they're paying him like less than that's like $5 million a year. That is a freaking steal for a guy that I think could be a legit left-handed reliever. If not a closer, like he's going to be a really good setup man. And maybe he's just like a solid reliever and not like one of the best relievers in baseball. But I feel like that is the upside there. You never really know with guys coming over from Japan. But yeah, he's definitely gone under the radar. And I think we'll get into the season and be like, damn, we're talking about all these other huge signings when it's like Matsui could be one of the most impactful.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of his arsenal. There is one concern though that really needs to be said is he's an I've watched a few of the outings with him. He's an extremely slow worker, like not quite Pedro Baez level, but he is a really slow worker. So getting to the pitch clock is going to be an adjustment. So it might see it kind of be a little risky at first, but I still trust his arsenal. I love the arsenal so much that he throws. So I'm a really big fan of this one, especially for the price that they got him.
Yep.
And we can go ahead and move on away from our transactions, and we can move on to the Hank Aaron Award winners. And I will let you name them.
Yeah, in the American League we had Shohei Ohtani, and in the National League we had Ronald Acuna Jr. Any problem with those?
No, not really. I think that's pretty deserved.
Yeah, the unanimous MVPs likely to win the Hank Aaron Award.
Definitely. So
crazy. Acuna got Hank Aaron Award and 73 stolen bases.
That guy sucks. Who cares? That guy sucks. Anyway, so we could go on to the crux of our show now that we have finally gotten to this point. And I'll let you take it away with your premise for this, because this was your brainchild.
Sure. Yeah. The All-MLB teams were just announced by Major League Baseball, and this is basically the end of year all-star teams. They are voted on by the fans for 50% of the vote, and the other 50% is from a panel of experts. As in basketball, do they do this in football?
They do the Pro Bowl team.
Okay. Oh, they just do the All-Star game at the end of the season.
They do first. I lied. They do first and second team. It's called All Pro. They do first and second team.
Okay. Yeah. So as the other major sports do, the MLB has also joined in on the fun. I think over the past 5 years they've done it. And they do a first team All-MLB and a second team All-MLB, basically doing every position, a full rotation, and a couple relievers. So you basically just have the best players in baseball. But this is voted on after the playoffs, so it does take into account playoffs. There's a lot of recency bias in these. And I felt like the best way to go about figuring out who the snubs were from the All-MLB teams was to create an All-MLB third team. So basically just the third tier. And I feel like the third team could actually compete with some of these if this were like a playoffs amongst like the three best teams of baseball players from 2023. There's still enough left over that missed out on the first two teams to make a pretty damn good third team. So first we'll go over the first and second teams. Here's the first team. Catcher, we had Adley Rutschman. First base, Freddie Freeman. Second base, Marcus Semien. Third base, Austin Riley. Shortstop, Corey Seager. In the outfield, we had Ronald Acuna Jr., Mookie Betts, Corbin Carroll. At DH, Shohei Ohtani. In the rotation, we had Garrett Cole, Zach Gallen, Blake Snell, Shohei Ohtani, and Spencer Strider. And in the bullpen, Felix Bautista and Josh Hader. I think this is fine. It's dope that Ohtani's both DH and starting pitcher first team. That's so cool. So deserving of the amount of money that he got. I thought it was sort of crazy that Spencer Strider made the first team. I know he's a big strikeout guy, but he didn't really have the run prevention numbers that you would have expected. But outside of that, I feel fine with the rest of them.
Yeah, I think this is pretty close. Strider was the other one that I was looking at. Like, I really don't know about this one.
Yes. And then the second team consists of Jonah Heim at catcher, first base Matt Olson, second base Ozzie Albies, third base Jose Ramirez, shortstop Francisco Lindor. In the outfield, Aaron Judge, Adolis Garcia, and Kyle Tucker. Tugger. And what's he tugging? Never mind. And then DH Yordan Alvarez. In the rotation, Kevin Gausman, Sonny Gray, Nathan Eovaldi, Jordan Montgomery, Kyle Bradish. And in the bullpen, Devin Williams and Emmanuel Clase. You can really start seeing the recency bias and the postseason bias. And it's so clear and evident in the rotation where Eovaldi and Montgomery made that. They were fine during the regular season. Montgomery much better than Eovaldi. Eovaldi, great first half. I think he was an all-star, but those guys were huge in the playoffs for the Rangers, and that really bumped them on there. I think the same can be said about Jonah Heim. The rest of the team, I think, is pretty well made up. I think Clase is borderline there, but he did lead all of baseball in saves. Any other analysis on the All-MLB second team?
No, I think this one was pretty fine. It's definitely the recency bias kind of carrying, especially the pitching. And I think we can probably rectify that with our third team.
Yes, that's right. And great transition as we'll transition into our third teams. We'll start with catcher. We're doing the full roster, so we'll go all the way through in the same order. Starting with catcher, who was your big snub? Who was the starting catcher for the All-MLB third team for you?
I was stuck between two, but I think I'm going to go with my second one and then just mention my first one. I had William Contreras because he led all of catchers in F WAR. Really good hitter, underrated defender, much better defender than his brother. But I also really wanted to shout out Patrick Bailey because really, really big fan of that guy. What about yourself?
Totally agree. I definitely don't think I considered Patrick Bailey at all, just because William Contreras was like by far the best catcher.
William Contreras was, but I also immediately thought of Patrick Bailey because if you looked at Patrick Bailey, I think he posted. So William Contreras, I think, posted like 5.7 F WAR over a full season. I think Patrick Bailey posted somewhere in the high twos. I wanted to say, let me look that up really quick, just so I'm not waffling. But I think he posted, what was it? Load Fangraphs. Don't do this to me right now. He posted 2.0 F WAR in 97 games, and that's still only 353 plate appearances compared to William Contreras, who posted like 5.7 and like almost 700 plate appearances. So like I feel like given the rate basis, I like Patrick Bailey a lot, and I would expect this to be a little closer next year. Yeah, so I like that a lot. Yeah. Well, Contreras had 611 plate appearances, so almost a little bit less than half. And he posted 5.4 F WAR. So I think it's close if you compare it on a rate basis. That's the only reason I wanted to say Bailey.
Yeah, I think William Contreras actually got snubbed here. I think he should have been over Jonah Heim, and
100%.
Jonah Heim sort of got the recency bias of winning the World Series. But yeah, no worries. He gets the consolation prize of making our third team. Who do you got at the cold corner, first base?
I had Yandy Diaz. I felt like Yandy Diaz really got snubbed here. I think you could also make a huge case for Pete Alonso, but Yandy Diaz was so good. I think he posted like high fours or five F WAR, had a career high in home runs, and was an extremely good fielder comparatively, like to a lot of his contemporaries at first. So I really liked Yandy last year. I had to go with Yandy.
Yeah, he batted 330. I also went with Yandy, and I also made sure to write down Pete Alonso's name just because he hit like 47 home runs. So I think if we're just looking at home runs, like Pete Alonso deserves to be there. I don't think I can really say Yandy got snubbed just because Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson definitely deserve to be there. No. It's just he sort of just got unlucky with how strong the top end of first base was. But yeah, Yandy Diaz, really incredible season. Love to see it for him because he is one of the players that I just love his game. What about second base? I thought this one was pretty hard.
I didn't because I went really close to home, and I went with Nico Horner because I think Nico Horner is perennially one of the most underrated players in baseball. And then in a season still mired with a little bit of injury, posted 5 F WAR. He posted just under 5 F WAR. Extremely solid numbers, won a Gold Glove. I think he was really, really solid. At second, I went with Nico Horner.
I went with Ha-Seong Kim. I think he was one of the best defenders in baseball, and he had his best offensive year since coming to MLB. I think very similar season to Nico Horner in just that a lot of their value came from their stolen base ability and their defense. But I gave the edge to Ha-Seong Kim mostly for the power output. But I also put Ketel Marte as an honorable mention because if we are going to sort of lean into the recency bias of the World Series, this guy had a great bounce back season during the regular season and then went and set the postseason hitting streak record during Diamondbacks run to an NL pennant. So I feel like he should have had some consideration. Would I have put him over Ozzie Albies or Marcus Semien? No way. But he does deserve at least a mention here. What about the hot corner? Who you got at third base? This one I actually think was the hardest.
Before we move on, I also had Luis Arias on my list because he hit like 350. And it's still like I still couldn't make an argument over like some of the other guys, which was crazy. For third, I actually had Gunnar Henderson. I think this one was. You said it was kind of difficult, and I saw him, and I was like, and I just looked at the numbers for like a second. I'm like, that just makes so much sense. I went with Gunnar Henderson, Rookie of the Year winner.
Yeah, he seems pretty underwhelming. It's just because it's like I don't think he's anywhere close to surpassing Jose Ramirez or
No.
Austin Riley, and that was the big
Mm-mm.
thing. And then it was just like from there, it was like a bunch of like very solid above average dudes, but nobody that like really set themselves apart or was like the third guy in that top tier of like Austin Riley and Jose Ramirez. But yeah, I love Gunnar Henderson had a great year, first full season. I also wanted to mention Isak Paredes, who actually had a better WRC plus, hit 31 home runs. He's just like a very weird player, but yeah, I think Gunnar Henderson a little bit more exciting, but yeah, third base was not really a contentious position in terms of was there a guy that really got left off that should have been on one of the first two All-MLB teams.
Yeah. I also looked a little bit at Isak Paredes, but I liked Gunnar's numbers a lot.
Yeah.
I also think he's probably a little bit better defender than him. So I went with Gunnar Henderson. Now, who did you have for shortstop?
I thought this one was like just like piece of cake. Bobby Witt Jr. Just had an incredible power speed season. I think there is an argument to be made that maybe he sort of got screwed out of the second team. He's pretty comparable to Lindor in terms of power and speed. Lindor's better fielder, but I think Bobby Witt Jr., one of the most exciting players. And if there was more room on this roster, I think he would have been one of the first options to make it on there just because he had such an incredible year.
Yeah. I wanted to stretch this for Dansby so bad, but I just couldn't. Bobby Witt Jr.'s numbers were just so good. You're going to get no argument out of me for Bobby Witt Jr.
Yep. I'll let you do all three outfield spots.
I felt like immediately that this one was pretty done and dusted for outfield spots.
Yeah, there's like a clear like top tier of like the six guys. It's like there's like a clear top 10, and then everybody after that is like, well, yeah, no, those aren't the same level.
Yeah. So I had Juan Soto. I had Julio Rodriguez. And then I actually skipped over one of the super top tier guys just because I wanted to shout out Fernando Tatis Jr. So I went with Tatis Jr. over Luis Robert, but I felt like that was kind of a toss up. I just went with Luis Robert. Or I went with
that's
Tatis,
fair.
Excuse me.
That's fair. I think Luis Robert Jr. had a better offensive campaign, mostly power speed, but Tatis definitely takes that defensive card because he did win the platinum glove in right field. So I think that does give him the edge there. And I think maybe if I thought about this a little more, I might go there. I did go with Luis Robert Jr. Finally had his first full healthy season. Strikeouts were a little bit too much, but he's playing center field versus right field, which that'll get you a lot more WAR.
That's true. And he still, even though that's the case, he still only had Tatis beat by like 0.5 WAR, points like 0.6 WAR, something like that. I just like Tatis, but I felt like J-Rod and Soto not being on those lists were wild. But I still sort of get it in some of the cases.
Yeah, you can probably put them over Adolis Garcia and maybe Aaron Judge just because the sample size was so small, but I feel like everybody else deserved to be on there.
Definitely so. And then that just leaves us for hitters wise at the DH spot. And I'm going to let you go first with this one. Who did you have for the DH slot?
This was hard because the DH options were guys that I don't like to root for. So I went with Bryce Harper. He played a lot of first base, but he did play some DH, and I think he had a pretty underrated season because the power wasn't really there like it usually is, but he did bat over 290. I think he still hit 21 home runs, and he had higher WAR than all of the other guys because he actually did play in the field. I know who yours is, so I'm going to mention a couple different honorable mentions. And Wilmer Flores, actually, I was really, really underrated. Was not much of a DH, but he did play in the corner infield for the Giants, and he was very quietly really good. And so was JD Martinez, but he's on the Dodgers, so I can't pick him.
I tried to make the argument in my head for Bryce, but for me, Bryce just sort of stood out more as playing first base. And I tried to get someone that mostly played the lion's share of the season at DH. And very unfortunately for me, because I hate rooting for him, it's Marcell Ozuna from the Braves. Posted the same amount of F4 as Bryce Harper, hit a lot of home runs, is a shitty person. I don't want to talk about Ozuna anymore, so we can keep going.
Yeah, and then the rotation I think is where we'll see the most interesting because I think the way pitchers are evaluated like post like after a season is a lot different. It's very subjective because for a
Mhm.
lot of times it's just like, oh, well, this guy had a better ERA. Well, this guy had a better like strikeout rate. It's like, what do you weigh more as a testament to how good a player was in a season, not like how dominant they were just like, I don't know. It's like, I think there's a lot more nuance than it comes to like this guy batted 290 with 25 home runs, but you're not going to look at his expected average and be like, well, he was really lucky. And we had a lot of guys that I think just got on there because they were on a World Series winning team.
Mhm.
Who was your first starting pitcher that you put down?
For me, I mean, this wasn't difficult in the slightest for number one,
No.
but it was Zach Wheeler because I felt like
Yep.
Zach Wheeler was an absolutely gigantic snub for
Yeah.
realistically no reason. He posted almost 6 F4, posted 5.9 F4 through 192 innings, which is his most since 2021. Last year, dealt with injury. And he was just nails too. Really, for me, for a large chunk of the season, the best pitcher in baseball, not named Shohei Ohtani. So I don't understand why he was not on the list because he realistically should be on the
On the
first team.
first team.
Yeah.
Yeah, he led starters in F4.
Mhm.
And I think he's really been underrated for the past couple of years. Got snubbed of the Cy Young Award in 2021. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he sort of quietly does it every year. But yeah, I think he really, really got snubbed. Who do you have at the second spot?
I had your boy Logan Webb,
Let's go.
with all 216 of his innings,
Right?
world-renowned inning devourer Logan Webb. I just felt same thing. I felt like a lot of the guys, especially on the second team, I felt like Logan Webb. I probably could not push for him on the first, maybe over Strider, but
Yeah.
for the second team,
Yeah.
he's better than most every guy on that list.
Yes.
So
Agreed. Yeah.
I had to have Logan Webb.
The innings are huge, but it's not like he wasn't good outside of that. He's great across the board. His dad follows me on Twitter. I had to include him. Who do you have third?
Who else do you think? Justin Steele. Justin Steele
Okay.
for me.
You're just running down the F4 leaderboard.
I am, and part of it though is because it makes a lot of sense. Justin Steele should be on this list because he's better than most of the ones. Again, probably on the second team. I don't think I could make an argument for him on the first, but on the second team, I think he's better than everyone. Like maybe not Gossman, not Gray, but those last three guys, he's definitely better than it. Eovaldi, Montgomery, and Bradish, definitely better than them.
Yeah, I actually didn't have Steele on my list at all. I had him as an honorable mention. I think it was just like the lack of innings and the lack of strikeouts, like sort
Mhm.
of left out that dominant factor, but he was very good in terms of ERA, and I had him on a fantasy team, so he definitely is in my favor. I went with Pablo Lopez, and I think it's crazy that I mean he might be more deserving than even Logan Webb. The innings aren't quite there, but he had an incredible season, just tons of strikeouts. I think he was second in the American League, maybe third. Just an incredibly dominant year as he finally was able to pitch a full season and really took his game to another level in Minnesota. But I think Pablo Lopez is one of the best pitchers in baseball. I think he's like right now top 10, and I don't think many people are aware of that.
Yeah, I kind of figured that you would probably pick him up, and I wanted to use some more of the different names.
Nice.
So my next one, I went with I kind of went down the F4 leaderboard a little bit, Jake. But I went with George Kirby, who was on my fantasy team. George
Sure.
Kirby, supreme control artist, through 190 innings, best pitcher on the Mariners, extremely good. I went with George Kirby.
Ooh, see, now that's where I disagree with you. I had Kirby as an honorable mention as well. Great ERA guy. The strikeouts were the big thing there for me that he didn't quite get there, and the innings weren't quite at the same level as who I think the best pitcher on the Mariners was and who I had at number 4, and that's Luis Castillo. He had a really incredible year. Strikeouts, he just had everything there, and it seemed like he was like a couple like incredible starts, or maybe knock off a couple of his bad starts away from like being the Cy Young Award winner. He was really close, but he didn't close the year out strong, and I think he quietly is like a top 5 pitcher in baseball, which is crazy to say. But yeah, he's really good. I think he's just got the strike. He's got that like I don't know. He's got that ace vibe more so than George Kirby in that like he can lead a rotation with his innings and his strikeouts, and he's going to be there every day and dominate all the time. While the the full picture might end up being very similar to Kirby in terms of production value. I do like Castillo a little bit more, and I had him as my 4. Who do you got rounding out your rotation?
I was between 2, and this is where I'm going to use my honorable mentions. But I was stuck extremely heavily between Kodai Senga and between Framber Valdez, and I think just based on what I have going here that I might have to go with Framber Valdez. Just basically almost a repeat of the previous season. Stats wise, he is one of the premier innings eaters in all of baseball. Guy's just extremely good. But Kodai Senga too, same thing. For me, it's more of a toss up. Kodai Senga threw a lot less innings, had a little bit less WAR, but still strikeout numbers were extremely good. I had a rocky start to the season as well, and then bounced back extremely well. But I like Framber a lot. I went with Framber Valdez.
Yeah, totally fair. I had Framber as my final honorable mention. I considered Kodai Senga, but his innings total was lower than anybody that we even talked about so far. So that was the big thing. Yeah, and he had the lowest ERA amongst these guys, but yeah, it was just like the lack of innings. But he's legit. I think Kodai Senga is going to be exciting next year. I went with Zach Eflin. Really had his first big breakout season for the Rays, and I'm somewhat biased because he was on my main fantasy baseball team and was like just one of my best draft picks. So I was super enamored with him throughout the year, and he really just never slowed down. He had a better ERA than some of the guys that I had in my honorable mentions and struck out more batters than them. So those were the deciding factors there. But I think there's really like 4 guys that could go in this last spot. For me, it was like George Kirby, Eflin, Steele, Framber, and then even Kodai Senga right on the outside there. But it was all very close. I'm glad we were sort of on the same page on most of the guys, mentioning the same guys. But now we can wrap things up, close things out with the bullpen. Who were your 2 relievers?
I'm going to start with my second one because I'll talk about the other one later. And I went with Michael King because I'm going based off his numbers as a reliever, but Michael King, big return in the Soto trade. I just really liked his numbers. It felt like a lot of the relievers that they took were really, really kind of fair. And I went with him first just because that guy's just so good at baseball.
Sure.
Who was your pick?
I had my second was Camilo Doval. Obviously, I'm going to be a little biased towards closers and then also to Giants guys. Mm-hmm. But Doval, I think, was a top 6 closer in baseball last year. I might have even have put him over Emmanuel Clase. I just think there were a few relievers that pitched better than Clase did last year, and Clase just got lucky with having a million save situations and being the go-to guy in Cleveland. But yeah, Doval was incredible last year, but I would have snuck the guy ahead of him as the 4th reliever.
Yeah, my other one was Camilo Doval. So throw that one in there. But I do want to talk briefly also about my honorable mention. I was kind of close on Tanner Scott, but that was the only other one.
Yeah, he was really good last year. I went with David Bednar, our guy, Yinzer Supreme. That's right. 39 saves last year. Really, really great season. Best year of his career.
I'm sorry to cut you. I tried not to grab the low hanging fruit with David Bednar. I was like, I'm gonna be a good boy. I'm not gonna talk about David Bednar for fun. Yeah, he was just so like solid throughout the whole year. Second half was really not as good as the first half, but yeah, David Bednar, I think one of quietly, like I don't know. It's just like one of those guys that like 15 years from now, you're just like, remember David Bednar? It's like, yeah, he was good for a few years. Like not going to be a guy that you like go to sleep thinking about. But you know, had a very solid year this past year. And I think he deserved mentioning as in the second team. I think David Bednar is going to be, this is my extremely like lukewarm hot take. David Bednar will end up being this generation's Joe Nathan.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty hot take. I feel like
I think he's really good.
Like Hall of Fame worthy.
I think he's really good, and I think he'll be really good for a while. I think his stuff just plays so well. Yeah, I like David Bednar. He's my GOAT personally.
Write that shit down.
All right, yeah, take that shit to the bank. Anyway, talking about closers and taking that shit to the bank, we can talk about our closer of the week and the Bring in the Closer segment led by Jake.
Oh shit! I forgot to do the banner. Give me a sec.
Put the banner up.
I gotta put in his name. One sec. If you've watched this long, it says we've had one viewer at least the whole time, but I feel like my mom like turns it on and then just like leaves it on. But our closer for the week is Wayne Granger. He had a 9-year career from 1968 to 1976, during which he pitched for the Cardinals, the Reds, the Twins, the Yankees, the White Sox, the Astros, and the Expos. He debuted in June of 1968 versus his future team, the Astros. At the age of 24, he tossed a perfect inning with 2 strikeouts and earned the save. He opened his career with 44 innings and a career best 2.25 ERA and a career best 1.18 whip with 4 saves. That's a pretty good start to have just like the best season of your career in terms of ratios. But that wasn't it. That was what he did before becoming the best reliever in baseball in an astonishingly quick fashion. He was traded to the Reds prior to his second year in 1969. Nice. For Veda Pinson. Pretty cool. And he joined the Big Red Machine. His first year in Cincinnati was actually a historic one. He tossed a career high 144 and 2/3 innings, pretty wild, which turned into a career high 68 strikeouts. Would have been wild if he had 69 strikeouts in 1969, but nonetheless, 2.80 ERA, and that came with 27 saves and a major league leading 90 appearances, as well as a major league leading 55 games finished. Those 90 appearances set a then National League record and earned him the Fireman of the Year award. He also finished 15th in National League MVP award voting, but that incredible start to his career wasn't it. It carried over into 1970, where he posted a 2.66 ERA, a major league leading and career high 35 saves to go along with a National League leading 59 games finished. Those 35 saves surprisingly set a then National League record. Pretty wild. That seems like a low number at this point when we've seen guys go over 60, but that earned him his second consecutive and final Fireman of the Year award. He finished 8th in AL Cy Young Award voting and 30th National League Cy Young Award voting and 30th in National League MVP award voting. It'd be pretty weird if he got AL Cy Young Award votes and National League MVP votes and he only pitched in one league. Never mind. He also threw the final pitch at Crosley Field. I am like so tuned out of baseball history that I don't even know if that was the Red Stadium, but he did it. He continued to be a workhorse in the final year of his Cincinnati tenure in 1971. That year, he tossed 100 innings with a 3.33 ERA and 11 saves while leading the National League with 70 appearances. But before the 1972 campaign, the Reds traded him to the Twins for Tom Hall. He maintained his form during his lone season in Minnesota with a 3.01 ERA and 19 saves. The Cardinals then reacquired him. As you remember, he opened his career with the Cardinals for one season, and he pitched for them in the 1973 season, only for him to struggle to a 4.24 ERA and just 5 saves before being traded to the Yankees at the deadline, where he turned things around with a 1.76 ERA. But then arm injuries would derail the rest of his career. In 1974, he pitched just 7 2/3 innings for the White Sox, but he bounced back with a 3.65 ERA and 5 saves in 74 innings pitched for the Astros in 1975 before his final season, which came with the Expos, where he accumulated a 3.66 ERA and the final 2 saves of his career, a career in which he racked up just 0.7 baseball reference WAR. Pretty weird that it's that low. Across 638 2/3 innings while striking out 303 batters with a 3.14 ERA, a 1.30 whip, and 108 saves, which is tied for 148th on the all-time saves leaderboard.
He would be like the 3rd or 4th sidearm guy that we've talked about now.
Oh, he's sidearm.
Yeah, he was a sidearm guy. Have you actually seen a picture of him?
Mm-hmm.
He was like
a nerd.
Yeah, dork, Wayne. Bro looks like he weighed like 110 pounds. he's like this big, and he threw sidearm. Apparently he was like a 3/4 guy. I tried to find it. So shout out to Card Corner on Fangraphs for the sweet article about Wayne Granger.
Yeah, it sounds like he's like a weak contact, pitch to contact ground ball guy, because he did not strike out guys at all. Like he struck out less than I think 4.5 batters an inning.
Yeah, he's a sinker guy. Shout out to Bruce Markison. He apparently was the OG Kent Colby, according to Bruce Markison, the GOAT. So but that's it for us for tonight. My name is David Spurd. You can follow me on my Twitter account at DVSBird. You can follow Jake Crumpler on his Twitter account at Jake Crumpler, and you can follow the Athletes Hub on Twitter at Athletes Hub, because they sponsor our show. You can also go read all the stuff on there for the Athletes Hub at theathleteshub.org. planning our big revamp for the new year. So please go help us out. Go read stuff. Do us a favor. It'd be pretty dope. You can go read all of Jake's stuff on the multitude of sites he writes for. Like
baseballhq.com. I do playing time analysis for the Giants, A's, Diamondbacks, and Angels. There is a paywall, but that's fine. They got incredible content and it's totally worth it, especially if you're a fantasy baseball player. Also, if you're a fantasy baseball player or just a baseball fan, go check out pitcherlist.com. It is the best baseball website in the entire world, in the entire internet, and it continues to grow and get better. We just added 25 new writers. So we'll have tons of content throughout the offseason, preparing you for your fantasy baseball season and also just keeping you entertained while there is no baseball. It's a great place to go read stuff. We got a whole podcast network, and we even have player pages that are filled with stats that you won't find anywhere else. And we are excited to just continue to grow and grow and grow and just continue to put out new content and really just like create the best baseball website on the internet. So go check that out. I should have an article coming out this week, maybe next week.
Yeah, they're definitely the GOAT. I love Pitcher List. They're just like, that site is so awesome, man. That is all we have for tonight. Make sure you check back in with us next Wednesday for more baseball.